From its humble origins in Jerusalem and Acre to the rip-roaring high seas to a version of England that somehow feels bigger and emptier than the real thing, the Assassin's Creed franchise has taken players all across the globe and let them be a part of some of the most epic events in history. It has also given rise to an overwhelming cast of colourful characters and let players live their lives alongside them. Of course, with so many characters packed into each and every game, it's no surprise that some just failed to resonate with the fans. From your Arnos to your Basims to your Connors, everyone has their least favourite hero and a list of 100 reasons to back up their loathing. Yet, for every person who hates a specific assassin, there are just as many who love them, flaws and all. So, for that reason, we'll be avoiding main protagonists today and focusing on the most regrettable side characters the series has to offer. History might be their playground, but no one wants to play with this lot. Beware, spoilers ahead. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are the 10 worst Assassin's Creed characters. Number 10. Desmond Miles. I know I said we'd be avoiding protagonists in this list, but Desmond Miles does so little to advance the plot or even endear himself to those playing as him in the 5 games he stars in that calling him a protagonist is really pushing the definition of the word. Seriously, the animus, the inanimate object used to enter the past via genetic memories, is more of a character than he is. It has more personality too. It's a real shame, because the biggest sin committed here is that of wasted potential. Desmond has all the right backstory, having been brought up in an assassin community, but quickly growing disillusioned with their cultish beliefs and running away, as well as the perfect setup, being captured by and then escaping from the Templars before joining a new band of assassins with a renewed sense of justice. His time in the Animus even trains him to be a master assassin, but does he do anything with these newfound abilities? No. Okay, he does get to go on a measly 3 missions in Assassin's Creed 3, but they're anticlimactic at best and boring at worst. And then he dies, saving the world from a threat no one even knew existed and is promptly forgotten. Good riddance. Felt a bit harsh that, didn't it? Number 9. Layla Hassan. Modern-day Assassin's Creed characters just can't catch a break, can they? Yes, after the disaster of wasted potential that was Desmond, Ubisoft was given a blank slate to create a truly memorable, truly influential, truly badass replacement that could stand toe-to-toe with gaming's greats. Instead, they gave us Layla. I'll say one thing in her favour, Layla does have more of a personality than Desmond. Not much more, granted, but I suppose it's something. While she began her career as an employee of Abstergo, she very quickly saw the error of her ways and joined up with the assassins, using her technical know-how to aid them in recovering lost memories. Like Desmond, the chances she's given to truly show off her assassin's capabilities are few and far between, and honestly, even more disappointing than Desmond's. The modern-day sections of the franchise have always been their respective games' weakest parts, and it's solely down to Ubisoft's steadfast refusal to let us do anything fun in them. Seriously, Ubisoft, far fewer fans would take umbrage with your convoluted nonsense if you fulfilled your promise and let them climb a few skyscrapers and stab a few Abstergo employees every now and then. But no, we get Layla finding a magical spear in Atlantis and then dying in something called the Yggdrasil chamber. Whoopee. Number 8. Lucy Stillman. Lucy Stillman is the closest thing we have to a wild card on this list, and that's because for the vast majority of the 3 games she appears in, she's a great character who does everything in her power to get the player to like her. Lucy is the only friendly face at Abstergo in the first game, the only one on players' side, so much so that they can't help but depend on her. Then, she reveals herself to be a double agent working for their side and helps them break out and join the modern-day assassins, and then, after everything they've been through at the end of Brotherhood, Desmond stabs her through the abdomen for no apparent reason, and she dies. What? Is most players' initial reaction to this madness, and it's a question that wouldn't be answered until the DLC for Revelations. That's right, the DLC! Turns out Lucy was, in fact, a triple agent working for the Templars to bring down the assassins from within. This revelation, do not pardon the pun, comes completely out of left field and absolutely ruins both the character herself and the relationship players have built up with her. And the worst part, the following games do nothing with it. Talk about a character assassination, am I right? You can forgive that one. Whoa-hey! Number 7. Louis-Joseph Gauthier, Chevalier de la Vérendrye. That's the only way I could say it, sorry. Also known as Chevalier for short, and a good thing too is pronouncing that properly just the once took 20 takes and also a silly voice. I'm sorry, the French, I'm sorry. Chevalier is just as pompous as his overlong, over-the-top name. Born a noble, he not only started life with a silver spoon in his mouth, but he was annoyingly good at everything he set his hand to. Finding new lands as an explorer, capturing forts during the 100 Years' War, captaining his own ship, and generally being an overachieving duty head. This nobility and inflated ego puts him at immediate odds with our scrappy, decidedly lowborn protagonist, Shay. From the moment they meet to the moment Shay shivs him and chucks him overboard, there's friction between them, friction that boils over into rivalry while Shay still works for the Assassins and enmity when he transitions to the Templars. Chevalier's always there, badgering and belittling, needling with snide comments. Either that or going too far and risking untold destruction just to finally see Shay dead. The worst part is, he's an assassin. He's supposed to be one of the good guys, not some stuck-up jerk. He may have been born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but he dies with a steel blade in his throat. Number 6. Alcibiades. When you hear the terms war hero, strategic advisor, orator, and great Athenian general thrown around, you expect them to be describing someone truly exceptional, an imposing beast of a man, and not some skinny pervert. Unfortunately, skinny pervert is the angle Odyssey went for, and it went hard. When players first meet Alcibiades, it won't take them long to realize he's the kind of person who only looks out for themselves and is only happy when they get their own way, which in this case typically involves fun of the bedroom variety. He's a drunk and a liar, withholds vital information from the player, blackmails anyone he doesn't like, and is an all-round unscrupulous fellow. He can't get through a conversation without being crass or vulgar, and he propositions the player every chance he gets, and not just for a little one-on-one fling either, but something involving multiple people and a goat. Now, if you're into that sort of thing, you might find Alcibiades somewhat charming. If not, each encounter only becomes more grating. Yes, the real-life Alcibiades had a wild youth and likely got up to worse, but then he grew up and became a general. Why couldn't we see that side of him? Number 5. Juno. More missed potential and unfilled promises now. Yay! Assassin's Creed 2 introduced series fans to a former race of super beings known as Those Who Came Before in the form of a holographic Minerva, and thus any semblance of sense in the modern-day plot went straight out the window. Brotherhood then introduced Juno, and with her came an initially exciting glimpse into the lives and complicated machinations of those who came before. Specifically, the fact that things weren't all picnics and roses between the higher-ups and that schisms were forming between them. But that excitement rapidly faded as she turned into a pantomime villain, one that claimed to be manipulating events from the shadows but who constantly failed to do anything of substance and mainly existed as a big shouty hologram. Her story apparently concludes with her unceremonious deaths in one of the comics, but seeing as such a small fraction of the fanbase actually reads those, it feels like she's being swept under the rug to make way for whatever nonsense Ubisoft has planned next. Appearing at the end games like that, teasing bigger and better things to come, she's kind of like Nick Fury, only a version of him that kept stringing the audience along and never actually bothered getting around to forming the Avengers. Number 4. Charles Lee. "Where is Charles Lee?" is a phrase anyone who plays Assassin's Creed 3 best get used to hearing, as it becomes a mantra of sorts for protagonist Connor, and killing him very much his raison d'etre. This is because Charles Lee is the low-down louse of a man who attacked Connor as a boy and seemingly started the fire that burnt his village down and killed his mother. Lee didn't, in fact, start the fire, but he does commit plenty of other heinous acts. He instigates the Boston Massacre by firing a pistol by the crowd, causing the soldiers to overreact and start shooting. He gives up secrets to the British forces and plots to assassinate George Washington, and he becomes the Templar Grand Master, sowing seeds of discourse and murder throughout the New World. Oh, and he also bumps into Connor an awful lot, each time threatening him, threatening and belittling him, or simply attacking him. He even sentences Connor to death and would have seen him hang were it not for the last-minute intervention of Connor's allies. Basically, he's a constant and belligerent thorn in both Connor's and, by extension, the player's side. Seriously though, no one likes Charles Lee, not even Hamilton. Number 3. Uberto Alberti. Ezio Auditore di Firenze enjoyed the first 17 years of life in ignorant bliss, drinking, dueling, and debauching with carefree abandon, completely unaware that his family was involved in a clandestine struggle between good and evil. But one fateful day, that gilded life all came crashing down. When the Auditore villa is ransacked and his father and brothers arrested, Ezio is tasked with delivering a letter that will prove their innocence to Uberto, a close family friend. Uberto, however, is a slimy backstabbing traitor, and even though he promises to free Ezio's family, he later goes back on his word and publicly sentences them all to death. At which point they are all promptly hanged, and Ezio naturally swears revenge. Look, I know you're a trusting guy, Ezio, but seriously, have you seen Uberto's face? It has smug jerk and weedy coward written all over it. Ezio may have been surprised when the man betrayed his family, but us gamers saw it coming a mile off. At least Ezio gets his revenge quite quickly, butchering Uberto with his hidden blade the very next day. We may hate Uberto for what he did to our boy, but if he hadn't, we'd have had no Assassin's Creed 2, arguably the best game in the franchise, so, swings and roundabouts. Number 2. Abbas Sophian. Altair might not have ingratiated himself to potential fans when he made his debut in the original Assassin's Creed, what with all the whining, petulance, and innocent stabbing he gets up to. But by the time the credits roll, many fans developed a soft spot for him. So much so, they were overjoyed when he made his return in Revelations, a joy which made what one Abbas Sophian does to him all the more bitter. Abbas and Altair started life as friends, both being raised as assassins from childhood, but a falling out saw a wedge driven between them which sets them down the path of becoming rivals, and then enemies. What starts as Abbas being a petulant pain in the butt quickly turns into him outright ruining Altair's life. The true betrayal starts when Altair is forced to leave Masyaf to deal with a rising problem in Mongolia, as Abbas seizes the opportunity to start a coup against Altair's reign, killing Altair's son in the process and blaming Altair's second in command, who he then has killed. Now in control of the order, Abbas displays zero leadership skills and runs the order straight into the ground, growing more and more corrupt, ruining his citizens' lives and undoing all of Altair's hard work. It's alright, Altair, you can kill this one, he's most assuredly not innocent. Number 1. Dag Nithison. Look up the most hated Assassin's Creed character ever on the internet and you will find one name cropping up far more than any other, and that name is Dag Nithison. Dag is a snivelling, snide, sneaky little sycophant who is 100% loyal to protagonist Eivor's brother Sigurd. They grew up together and yet will never be as close as family, and because of that, he is extremely jealous. The rivalry between Dag and Eivor starts back in Norway, but really comes to a head when they settle in England. After founding the settlement of Ravensthorpe, Sigurd travels north to make new allies, leaving Eivor in charge. This naturally rubs Dag the wrong way, but he's loyal, so he puts up with it as best he can. Shame his best doesn't amount to much, as from here on out, Dag will openly question every decision the player makes. Seriously, even if players go out of their way to try to do so, nothing will please Dag, and he is very vocal about it, constantly trying to turn others against them, insinuating and outright accusing them of wanting Sigurd dead and acting out at the worst possible times. It finally ends when he challenges the player to a duel, which goes about as well as you'd expect. Do you like Dags? No, not this one.